Yeah.
All right, so I was just complimenting you on your great spring outfit right now.
Thanks.
Fantastic as
Yeah.
always.
Thanks. Yeah. It's the back and forth with the weather's a little confusing, but I'm trying to be hopeful.
We're all
Nice
trying to
cut. You got
compartmentalize it,
yeah.
man.
You got back from the barber shop looking fresh.
I
You're ready
did,
to
man.
go.
He did me right. I'm actually leaving for New Orleans tomorrow, so I was like, actually for Kevin McCann's bachelor party.
Wow, Kevin's getting married.
He's
Tell him
getting
I said
married.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. I'll
exciting.
let him know.
New Orleans is a good time.
Have you
Very good
been?
time. I hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, I was actually there in December.
Oh, any
Yeah.
recommendations?
We just kind of did a little bit of everything to try random foods and
Yeah,
whatnot. We took a gator tour and that was really cool.
we're doing the
So,
Gator tour.
yeah, go out into the swamps. It's really neat. It's something I've never done, and I held an alligator, so that was cool.
What?
It
You
was
a
a baby. It was
badass,
like
sir.
this big. It was like this big.
It still
No,
counts.
my one of my best friends, she like got up, the big one still in the water to feed
Yeah.
it a marshmallow. She was the real badass in the group because I'm like,
Wow.
I don't know how to explain it to your mom that you got eaten. Like,
It wasn't worth it. I guess that's cool.
it's
Um,
casual, no big.
the so so the first 5 minutes of this podcast is us just gonna be talking about people nobody knows about, but
Yeah, it's cash. It's fine.
so I want to introduce you properly. So basically this is I know you as Hugo, but you
Yeah,
are a professional. you are you're no longer the lifeguard I knew you as growing
debatable,
up. So do you go by Huey for the professionals out there?
No, I'm just Hugo.
Hugo. Hey, you're more
Yeah.
than just Hugo. You're so this is Hugo Melendez. You
Oh
are
no,
a
Hugo Cruz. I'm sorry. That's
Wow.
that. Oh yeah,
We're
no.
breaking it all down.
I'm sorry. I changed my name on certain things, but it's Hugo Cruz.
All
I'm
right.
so sorry, Ryan.
Reset. Hugo Cruz. So you are a mental health clinician, which
Yes.
is awesome. Uh,
Thanks.
if you had told me that was gonna be like where you're going, like when we first started, like when I first met you as like teenage lifeguards, I've been like, what the fuck? Like what a
It's like
wild transition. Although you were
he's a
everybody's
therapist.
therapist at the lifeguard table, which is fair to say.
Yes, and it's funny because at that time, like, I'm not surprised that you are like building this fitness empire because you were about it. I remember there days I'd be like, come on, you want something from the snack shack? And, everybody's fighting about what it's called. But I'm like,
Yeah,
you want something from the snack shack? You're like, no, Hugo, like, this is what we're doing.
yeah.
This is the goal. And you were always out there killing it. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that
My man.
this is where we're at. It was
I
always a passion of yours.
and I like that you called it the Snack Shack because that's exactly the name it should have been called. I don't know what they
I
tried to
refuse to
name it.
call it anything else. I
Anything else?
refuse.
It flows. Snack Shack flowed way better. I don't know what they tried to call it, but
At this point, we're like 12 years down the line. I haven't let it go. Like,
I haven't.
it's
I
the
still
snack
have
shack.
resentment.
I'm still mad.
That's right. We'll break that down in the podcast. But why don't you introduce yourself? Kind of give us a little bit about who you are, your journey, what you do now, and then we'll rattle it off.
Well, I'm Hugo. I am a mental health counselor, or therapist, clinician, many titles, but ultimately I work with people in a therapeutic setting to kind of help them with whatever it is that they're coming in with. Most of my focus has been with children with very different needs, and working with their families to kind of get them to where they need to be. Currently licensed in the state of Connecticut. Um, Pretty much it in a nutshell.
Let's go. And how long you been doing the therapist role for?
Oof. Officially, like once I graduated with my master's, it's about to be a little over 6, 7 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. I've been licensed for about maybe four. Oh God, scary saying those numbers out loud.
I know.
Um, yeah, it's been a while now, but then even before then, I worked in less capacities, either through a clinician as like one of their side counselors, almost like an assistant type of role, different things like that. And
Hmm.
just slowly kind of worked my way up the ladder.
And it is weird when we say like because that feels very adult when you're like, I kind of been doing this for almost 10 years now. So it's like
Yeah,
it's like the
it's
weirdest thing to say. But what I'm curious kind of what drew you to going into that field.
it's weird because around the time that we met, there was still something in my mind that was telling me I was going to be possibly going into some form of journalism. Maybe one day I was going to
Mm,
write for GQ. Who knew? But at that point, I had already been taking a lot of psychology courses. There was one particular class. It was child psychology, where we had to do kind of this project where I was actively going into a pre-K, working with the people there, seeing the developmental stages and everything was very fascinating to me. And then when I got to this other class called it was like abnormal psychology for children, something else that really jumped out at me, saw that there was a need. It was something that like, I had always worked with kids in some capacity as well. And then next thing I knew, it was something I was pursuing full time. So
hmm.
that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, I love that. So it was one like psychology class where it focused on something you're like, I like this. Let me like further this down the road a little bit. And now
Yeah.
look at you, Mr. Masters.
Yeah. Cause at first it was kind of like I'll be a psych major.
Yep.
Everybody's telling me it's flexible. I can go into anything with that, like
Right.
whatever. It is what it is. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So now here we are.
Yeah, seriously, dude. I love that. I when I was in college, I originally was nursing and then I switched to health studies and I same thing.
Mhm.
I took like they had like your mandatory psych classes and I fell in love with psych too. Like I actually I, I failed. What did I fail? I failed, not failed, but I got like a C in like psych statistics or something like that, like a psych stats class. Bunch of
It's a good
bullshit.
time.
It was stupid. And that class, I had no idea at the time when I graduated, but if I had gotten like a C plus or more, I would have been like a double major in psychology. And I was just like, God damn it, because
They were like,
they're
"Nah,
like,
you
sorry,
you
man.
you blew it. You
The
blew it. Get
stats
out."
are important.
Yeah, no, statistics is terrible.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan, but
Yeah.
surprisingly, it's one of the few branches of math that I actually kind of understood. Everything else,
Oh, yeah,
it's
you're
terrible.
meant to be here. Well, I really want to pick your very intelligent brain because, um, I when it comes to what I do with
Mm,
clients, my whole end goal for them is to get them to create behavior change, right? And
love that.
for me, from what I've seen from training, like you used to see me at the gym when I was a personal trainer at the old
All
LA
the time.
Fitness all the time.
I still use some of your tips.
And I see, I used to see you grinding too. I was like, let's go, Hugo, let's go. But so that's my end goal because I realized early on
Mm,
through training, like it's not enough just to try to do these physical changes, but we have to really do a lot of inner work and a lot of behavioral change options to get somebody to really create lasting change post getting their results and
yeah.
everything. So I really want to pick your brain on like really like the psychology that goes into behavior change.
Yeah, there's so much that can go into this. The One of the first things is like so many people don't realize how like, that physical health goes hand in hand with mental health. They
Hmm.
very much complement one another. And when one is severely lacking, it's going to affect and definitely step into the realm of the other. They're very interconnected. And I feel like a lot of people don't see just how deep it goes,
Hmm.
how the anatomy of the brain is very, I'm trying to find a good word, maybe temperamental, maybe
Hmm.
it kind of goes with whatever's going on in the environment. And when we're out there and we're doing some good exercise, it's like we're releasing endorphins where that serotonin is going, all these wonderful things are happening. That muscle and skeletal tension, I believe, is
Hmm.
now being relieved. people are falling into deeper sleep, and staying asleep, and it's quality sleep where all these wonderful things are happening, and it's contributing to lower blood pressure, reduced stress, and better heart rates, the works, the brain activity. The brain is firing on all cylinders. It's ready to go, and it's one of those things I feel like is overlooked a lot, both in, when many people talk about physical health or when they talk about mental health. Um, which is why I love the fact that so many, it's kind of, a lot of people are kind of taking on this mindfulness approach, or
Mhm.
taking a very holistic approach where they want to combine the two of them, um, because you achieve so much more in that manner.
Mhm.
It's incredible what you can do
Mhm.
when you're taking care on both ends of it.
Right.
Um, Actually, there's a lot that I see on your page. You're very real about it. Whether it's the mental health side, things like that. I think something else that kind of happens, and this is just me, putting these random disclaimers out there.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to the physical aspect of things, um, I think we get caught up in the whole, like, we have to know what we're doing. We have to, oh, these people at the gym look this way, or these
Mhm.
people on Instagram look this way, and everything like that. And it's like, guys, start very first. Step one, let's clear it out. Let's clear it
Mhm.
out. Let's start from scratch, and let's start working our way in. I think even people who, I mean, I'm not a big gym fanatic, but I like to go 5 to 6 times a week. And even then, there are still days where I struggle. And at this point, this has been my routine for like 5 years.
Yeah.
I still struggle. And that's one thing that I very much appreciate about your page. You're always kind of very open about the goals that you're setting and whatnot. And hey, if we have a fallback, we have a fallback. We get back up, we keep it moving.
Mhm.
Which I know we talked a little bit very briefly before about the stages of change and everything.
Mhm.
And that's more towards the end. I'm definitely going to pull you back in for that.
Let's go.
But if we were to like start at the very beginning, we're kind of
Mhm.
talking the pre-contemplation stage, um, people aren't really saying there's not really an issue there. It's not even on the forefront anymore.
Mhm.
Nobody's really thinking about it. Um, and maybe, some people say there's a level of denial. If I'm going to use my own personal experience, I don't think there was a level of denial there. It just wasn't a priority at the time, where I'm like, oh, I'm pursuing 20 other things, like,
Right.
nah, the gym can wait. um but it does get to the point where you're trying to reach certain goals. I've tried to be kind of fit. I think where something really hit for me, if in my own experience, was after the pandemic. I had put on, in a matter of 3 months, about 50 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, it was I have never been that heavy, to the point where my friends and I were going out for some, just to go to a local vineyard. Nothing in my closet was fitting, nothing. And
Mhm. Right.
there's a lot to go through.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's kind of what took me from that stage of pre-contemplation, like, oh, there's not really a problem, we're good, like, which then brought me into that contemplation stage. And that's where we kind of start thinking, like,
Mhm.
should I go do this? Should I be in the gym? Should I, the doctor's been telling me maybe I could lose a few pounds, maybe I could do this. When we start thinking back and forth, that's kind of like where we really start getting in there. But I
Mhm.
also think it's one of the harder stages, because I think human beings, were creatures of habit.
Right.
And sometimes that means we're going to self sabotage anything that's going to shift that habit.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like me regularly, that happens.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, you are somebody who was, always very aligned with the whole physical fitness and everything. But I've seen some of your posts where you're like, yeah, some days it's hard for me.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
absolutely. Well, and I think you hit on a lot of things where it's at one point, like I hadn't even contemplated like seeking out mental health, for it wasn't my focus. Like it was all physical health. It was all one-sided. So that was like my
mm,
like very much my pre-contemplation stage where it's like I don't see anything wrong with this issue at all. Right.
yeah. It's but it's, when we get to that contemplation stage for anybody out there, we're kind
Mhm.
of talking whether it's you want to try and become more active, or you're thinking maybe you're going to try and find somebody to kind of help with the mental health aspect of things.
Mhm.
Definitely start looking into, like, okay, what are the pros and cons of this? Some days we find more cons. If you need pros, just remember the health, your brain activity improving, the sleep being better, your body feeling
Mhm.
better. Um, Even for vanity reasons, you're gonna look better. It's
Look
awesome. Like,
sexy.
it's a
Look good naked.
yeah. You want to? There you go. There's that suit, that dress, that nice shirt, that nice button up that you've been eyeing. You're
Mhm.
trying to go after it. Go after it. You're allowed
Mhm.
to have those moments, you know?
Right.
Um, but I think a big thing here that people always need to remember is what are potential barriers.
Mm.
I think when we don't prepare for those barriers, um, so we're just gonna say I wanted to go to the gym and I didn't prepare myself at all. Everything from the clothes, who was potentially going to be there, if it was going to be crowded. And I'm one of those people who suffers with too many people being around. It makes me really uncomfortable. If I didn't prepare for that, that is a very easy way to set myself up for failure. I
Mhm.
go in there and I'm like, matter of fact, I'm not coming back.
Right.
And it's one of those things when we're in that contemplation stage, let's weigh those pros and cons. But while we're at it, let's barrier predict and let's see what we're going to do about that.
Mm.
So, that's always kind of like what for the people that I've worked with that, want to try and get in that or any kind of behavior change, what are the benefits of this and
Right.
what's going to get in the way and how are we going to overcome that? And that's a lot of like planning with yourself, really taking a good hard look at yourself to be like,
Mhm.
okay, I know this is going to bother me. This is going to bother me. I don't like this and this. How am
Right.
I going to overcome that? And it could be something as easy as, are you a morning person? No, then maybe
Mhm.
10 extra minutes in the morning is what you need to get going.
Right.
Maybe having your coffee pre-made or something if you like iced coffee, anything like that, little
Yeah.
little things can go a long way.
Right. Reducing the amount of friction, essentially, right?
Yes, exactly. Reducing that to make it a much smoother like transition into this new like journey, this new lifestyle.
Mhm.
So part of that, we start preparing, we
Mm.
barrier predicted, and now we're like, okay, I'm gonna do some research, what are proper exercises, um, maybe meal planning. Again, this is where a lot of your page actually came in handy. Everything from Ryan, I'm terrible with the names of the machines. There was one with the foot placement where you push
Leg
with
press.
your legs. There you go. That's the one.
You're so
Um,
close.
so close. Um, a lot of the that you posted to this day, a lot of the leg and lower body stuff that I use, a
Mhm.
lot of the tips on form and everything like that have actually come off of your page.
Mhm.
You were one of the trainers that I like went through, like kind of learning how to get along with certain
Mhm.
things. And I put a goal in mind. I had a place where I started. I always say pictures kind of help go a long way. Let's
Mhm.
let's let's throw away the Instagram models. Let's throw away whoever you saw on the cover. Chances are everybody's photoshopped. I hate to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
that
yeah.
person, but
True.
listen, there were times where I in the right lighting with with the right outfit, with the right pose, uh,
Yeah.
I could pull it off. Not currently. But no, we don't look like that. Not every day. It's, it's just the reality of things, and
Mhm.
it's sad to see how people kind of get really stuck in that. Well, I don't look like this, and some of them look incredible already. Whether
Mhm.
they're big, small, whatever. Be happy where you are, but when it's time to do those pictures and set goals for yourself, it's you versus you, not you
Mm.
versus not you. Oh, I'm going to be this. No, you're trying to be the best you. It's
Mm.
always the mindset that I try to help people get to.
You're getting me pumped
But
up over here, man.
oh, I'm happy. I'm
I feel
happy
like I'm
because
like at a
it's
motivational
just
speech right now. Let's go.
it's no, it's just one of those things, and it's something that definitely comes from the heart because I
Yeah.
was very much that person. It's like looking at all these people, and then it's like, But then, there's occasionally that tagged photo or that video. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but then that's when you see the reality of the situation. You were idolizing something that was photoshopped or
Mm,
very much prepped for makeup, whatever it was. And it's like, it's not realistic.
right.
We want to keep it realistic. And, I had a goal in mind. And one thing that I started doing was kind of taking those progress pictures, because what that kind of helped me with is I was no longer checking for anybody else. I was checking for me.
Right.
And I was like, okay, look, all right, stomach's shrinking a little. Oh, okay, the chest is coming in. It's very exciting to see that. And I think
Hmm.
it's a huge difference from being like, oh, but I don't look like that guy.
Right.
I don't look like that girl.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's one of those things. And always come ready, like find ways to motivate yourself, overcoming those barriers. You know, I drink coffee every day now, but back then I didn't drink, and it was kind of like a treat for me. And I was like, if I
Hmm.
make it through all 5 days, that iced coffee is waiting for me on Friday.
Mm,
Like
hmm.
little things like that, just to kind of prepare yourself.
Right.
Um, Even though the iced coffee kind of falls into the next one, which then brings us to the
Mm,
action stage where it's like, let's go do it.
right.
You've prepared, you've had all this time. And that part can be a little scary. Actually, one of my really good friends recently started coming to the gym with me, not because, you know, he didn't want to or anything like that. He just, he's a little more uncomfortable around people. He wasn't sure what to do with certain things.
Hmm.
So helping him along with the preparation stage and all of those things. And then we ended up going to the gym together. And even on his first day, and this is totally normal, I think we've all been there. Um, a little like shy, maybe a little anxious,
Hmm.
not knowing 100% what to do. We kind of went through it. If I could, I was telling him about this, that I was going to be on this podcast. I'm not, I won't throw him out there, but he, I'm so proud of him, just how far he's come along. He's out there days where I'm like, over this. He's like, come on, Hugo, let's go. We're not done. And I'm
Let's
like,
go.
we're not done. Here we go.
I love that. So
Yeah,
he's
no,
switched.
he's out there killing it. I'm super proud of him. But yeah, it's social support is
Hmm.
always one of the best things. When I started seeing you there, that was like such a big like help. Even like I'm pretty sure there were a couple times where I was like, remember the foot placement? And you would send me the screenshots of what you
Hmm.
had. And that was just such a help, because I know a lot of people are scared to ask for that help, but it was so
Hmm.
comfortable because I'm like, I've been Orion. Like
Yeah.
it's and it was great to see somebody there that I knew. It was comfortable. And if I was ever stuck on anything, or God forbid, I mean, it happened. If the form was somewhere where it wasn't like, oh, Hugo, be careful with that. It was so good hearing from you, being like, Hugo, no, you want to try and do this. And that was
Hmm.
always so helpful and very much appreciated to this day.
My pleasure,
Um,
man.
and it was super helpful. To this day, the squat thing, Nike's being slightly
Yeah.
still do it in socks.
There you go. Let's go.
um, so yeah, it's super helpful. Sometimes to have a friend, but
Hmm.
even if we don't have that social support, you have your goals, you did the research. Now it's a matter
Hmm.
of you putting it all into practice. And
Hmm.
one thing, you got this. Just keep running it in your mind. I got this. I got this.
Hmm.
And if things are a little weird, there's staff there. Give a call or hold off on it. Maybe you'll come back to that particular exercise the next day.
Hmm.
Make sure it's part of your plan. You're going to research it one more time tonight, and tomorrow you're going to go in and kill it.
Hmm.
Yeah, little things like that. And then, of course, a little reward here and there. Although
Sure.
I will say, sometimes getting through all of that is a reward in itself.
Right.
It's, I feel like you're a trainer. I feel like every time you hit a goal, you must be like, dang, I was able to do all that.
Well, I think that's one of the coolest things too, is when, especially anytime we put ourselves out of our comfort zone and you do
Mhm.
the damn thing, like that euphoric feeling you feel post, that action, it really just reaffirms why you did it in the first place, right? Like
Yeah.
anything you've ever done before, like whether it's public speaking, whether it's, hitting that weight loss goal, whether it's going in the gym, if you've had gym anxiety, like you get that such a that euphoric like dopamine rush because you put yourself out of your comfort zone, where and that's growth, right?
Yeah. And it's the best feeling ever. And it's still small victories. I think
Mhm.
that's another thing that kind of gets in our way. We want to be at our end goal like this, and it's like whether it's physical health, whether it's mental health, things take time.
Mhm.
It takes practice to form a habit. I always see that, I'm not sure how true that is, but they
Mhm.
say it's 20 something days to form a habit
Mhm.
or a new habit, a new behavior.
Sure.
I'm not 100% sure how exactly that works.
Agreed.
But it's one of those things along the way, whether it takes 21 days, whether it takes 1,000 days, along the way, celebrate your small victories. You got out of
Mhm.
bed this morning and that's difficult for you. Congratulations, you made it.
Mhm.
You got through your fitness program. I bet you when you started, you were very overwhelmed by it. And look, you made it
Mhm.
to the other side.
Right.
It's those little things we have to keep, celebrating. I feel like it's almost like a coping thing
Yeah.
as we go along to combat those negative feelings like, oh man, I didn't hit, because we have progress isn't linear. So when we hit those bumps in the road, it's good to have those wins kind of stored up here because we're like,
Mhm.
okay, didn't do so hot, kind of ate it this week, but I'm gonna fucking kill it next week. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that we kind of want to keep going along the way, and it kind of helps, bring us into that maintenance stage where we're
Right.
keeping up with everything. Um, we're eating right. We've figured out ways to, again, go check Body by Ryan. So many, so
Gassing
many
me.
of, so many of these. Like, no, one thing that I will say, I wouldn't say I ever had an unhealthy relationship with food.
Right.
But a lot of the topics that you cover regarding food have been super helpful to me. Whether it's been like, you know, you're gonna eat this at the end of the week. Let's be accountable for it. Let's just adjust certain things along the way. We're not
Mhm.
starving ourselves. We're not cutting anything out.
Right.
Everything is in moderation. Everything. I feel like a lot of the videos that you have posted, some of the like calculators and things like that you post
Mhm.
are super helpful. And especially to somebody like me who refuses to count calories and do any of that,
Good for
you
you.
have other ways of measuring. And I'm like, it's quick, it's to the point, and I couldn't tell you how many calories I had today, but all I know is that I'm happy and I'm satisfied, and
Yeah, yeah.
we're still on track.
Right.
I like to pretend that we are. No,
Right.
I think we are. We'll see. I'll see you on Friday. Um,
Right.
yeah, I don't. That was another thing. I no longer do the daily scale thing. So
Good for you, man.
yeah, because that doesn't. You'll see like the smallest difference, and
Right.
in your head, like, well, I did do this different. Again, that's one of those bumps in the road. I keep jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
And that was one of the barriers that like I had to overcome where I was like, you know what? I'm only doing check-in on this day and this day. Um, because I'm killing it. Like, and
Mhm.
I'm not gonna let a scale number tell me otherwise. And it's like I'll let my clothes tell me whether
Yeah.
something's working or not. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like where that maintenance stage is at. It's keep working at it. And
Yeah.
when a new bump comes in the road,
Mhm.
use your strategies. You already have so many strategies to get you to where you are now. Use some of
Mhm.
those older ones. Go back to the board, to the drawing board, and let's see what else we need to do to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's the best when you can do that whole maintenance thing. I think it's a great place to be in. I also think it's a slippery slope to a certain point because
Mhm.
now this is where people tend to almost self-sabotage where they're like, "Oh, I don't
Mm.
wanna be too skinny," or, "Oh, I don't wanna gain too much weight," where they almost throw themselves off, whether
Yeah.
it's physical or mental health. This is where I'm like, "You guys monitor yourselves, keep doing what you're doing," but,
Mhm.
you know, some days, if you have a little extra this or if you do a little extra that, that's okay. There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that.
Right.
It's a matter of just, getting back, but I think that's where we see that if there's one slip or one major slip or they've gone too far in a certain
Mhm.
direction that they didn't want to go, that's where we kind of see like the relapse,
Yeah. And I
which
like
is
go ahead.
unfortunate. No, go ahead.
Well, I like how you mentioned sort of how you're like, well, and then I'm going backwards in this, and then I'm going because that's how behavior change works, right? Like you're not just
Yeah,
because you've reached maintenance stage doesn't mean you're guaranteed to stay at that stage.
yeah, no, again, it's a great place to be, but it can also be a slippery slope for anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's very much just I if I'm using myself as an example, it was one of
Mm-hmm.
those things I would say that I was in maintenance for a while, and then I was just like, I'm gonna take a 2 week break from everything.
Mm-hmm.
Work. I took time off from work. I took time off from my more structured, better eating, and
Mm-hmm.
I was scarfing like half a bag of Doritos in one sitting.
Right.
It's one of those moments, but it was very much planned on. It was very much a calculated decision
Mm-hmm.
that I moved forward, and I knew that after those 2 weeks, it was back to doing what I needed to do to keep
Mm-hmm.
my mental health and my physical health where it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, COVID hit, so that took a lot longer than I
Yep.
was expecting. That a bump in the road, and then we adjusted shortly after. But I think we talk about the whole like relapse stage, and I think if if anyone can take anything from this, it's if we hit that stage, we all go there. We've
Right.
all been there at one point. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a lot of victories that now you feel were flushed down the toilet, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have not lost that success. It's all still there. It's a matter of getting it back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we all slip. It's a matter of getting back up. Now, whatever kind of caused you to fall into the slip, now you know for next time. It's time to do it all over and it's time to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things we can't beat ourselves up. Maybe a little bit. It's okay to have those feelings, but
Right.
at one point we got to put those feelings back in the box and let everything else out because you guys are great, you guys are powerful, you guys are amazing and capable of so much more than you're even aware of. And it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things you can't stay in that relapse place
Right.
for too long. It's not doing you any good. So
Right. Well, it's funny you say that because that's that the relapse, what you're calling a relapse stage, I call I fucked this up stage, right? So where people
love it.
commonly just say like I fucked up and they inherently believe that they are their failure, right? Like and that fact that they failed means that everything they've done is undone already, that they should not continue forward. And then, like you said, they stay in that relapse stage. So that's one of the biggest things I will preach to my clients is like you can't fuck this up, right? Because
Yeah,
even if you in your mind like a minor misstep could be a huge misstep in your like you over exaggerate it. But it's one of those things where if you tell yourself you can't fuck this up, as long as you get back on track, as long as you get back on board, you're good.
exactly. And it's one of those things. It's like we all go through it, and I think
Mm-hmm.
people are so quick to punish themselves. Again, that's self sabotage,
Yeah.
and it's like it's hard. It's one of those behaviors that at 31 years old, I've unlearned in various realms.
Mm,
It was a mistake. But to this day, there's other places where I definitely need more work on not being that way. And even when it comes to the world of like fitness,
mm-hmm.
there are times where I'm incredible, I'm living the life, I'm doing everything. And then when I go look, I'm like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
took it a little too far. And then I'm bummed for the rest of the day.
Right.
We all go through that. It's a matter of just being able to turn it around and being like, use that for your motivation. Easier said than
Mm-hmm.
done,
Right.
granted.
Yep. Absolutely.
But use that as your motivation. You're not happy where you're at. You know what needs to get done because you've already
Mm-hmm.
done it.
Right. And I guess my next question for you,
Mhm.
because self-sabotage is such a common um thing is as to why somebody might never get to their goal, right? Like they keep getting in their own way. I guess how do you break down the root cause of somebody's self-sabotage and I guess what's like your best advice for getting out of your own way from like a you know therapist standpoint?
Oh, self sabotage. It's very different for everyone.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there needs to be a level of awareness. We definitely need to dig into ourselves and see where that kind of came from. What is driving that behavior? Whether it was something that was modeled to you as a child, you just kind of pulled it in. Does it go back to maybe when you were being bullied, or maybe you were doing so well so many times and somebody always told you it's still not good enough?
Mm,
It's different for everybody, and some people just don't have that feeling that they're ever good enough or that they're never going to be where they want to be. Wherever that root is at, wherever it comes from, maybe it's multiple places. It's one of those things where, we gotta, depending the situation, we gotta give ourselves that room to feel those feelings, as, feel it to heal it, and
Mm,
then name it to tame it. Like, what is it that got you here? What is it like? And then give yourself that space to feel those feelings, but also give yourself that space for love, like
mm,
that self love. Whether you're in the mirror being like, "I've got this. I'm great. These are the things that I have going on for me so far, and this is where I would like to improve, but I still got all these great qualities." Or you're writing self affirmations, or maybe we are seeking mental health treatment, at a more intensive level, rather
mhm.
than those, there's those self help books and everything. Everything has a place,
Sure.
but maybe we're gonna unpack some of those memories, or anything that is contributing to it currently. Give yourself permission to go out and do those things, and so that you can really get to that place where you want to be
Mm,
and be the best version of yourself.
yeah. I love that. And I love those sayings you said. Feel it to heal it. I thought was awesome because that's so true. And name it to tame it, right? Like you can't fix a problem if
Yeah.
you don't understand what the problem is, right? Um, so I wrote those two things down because I was like, that's gold, Hugo. It's gold.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
but so I guess my follow-up question is that is,
Mhm.
because I think what I found with especially with clients of mine or anybody I've ever worked with is that we're masters of distraction, right? Like we are masters of distracting our minds from, like you said, feeling it so that we don't know actually what needs healing, right? We just
Mhm.
we distract it either with food, or we distract it. Some people distract it with more exercise, right? They'll overtrain to
Mhm.
compensate. So I guess what are some strategies that maybe you implement with clients, or that like maybe utilize yourself to actually feel it, and then maybe some things to heal. Obviously everybody's case will be different, but some general things that maybe somebody can start today doing.
It's, one thing that is super helpful, and I like to try and take, whether it's friends, colleagues, whatnot, self check-ins are so important. When you're in your comfort zone, a place where you can sit down away from those distractions of the world. Check in with yourself. Where are you at? Have you been feeling good? Reflect on the last week or the last couple of weeks. Have you been
Mm,
feeling good? Have you been feeling okay? In your day to day, what has interactions with others been like? I'm one of those people. I especially check in during the winters. I get that seasonal depression, and it's really difficult for me sometimes. And I have to do those check-ins. And once you've been able to identify where you're kind of at, let's start putting things in place that are going to help us. Whether it's we're going to start doing a little bit of yoga, super helpful with the meditation aspect of it.
mm,
Super, it's great for the body, all of it. It's love it, love it. Need to get back into it, but I loved it when I was doing it. Um, whether it's yoga, some kind of meditation, setting up time with your tribe, whether it's friends, family, those people who put you in that real feel good space. If there's something more toxic, malignant, that isn't vibing well with you, maybe that's something we need to start pushing out or making plans to get rid of it.
mm,
Um, Things like that, because when you're able to kind of set those boundaries with yourself and with
mm,
the world around you, my friends have other ways of saying it, when you
sure.
stop giving a shit about things,
Yeah.
and a healthy aspect, um, the world is your oyster. And it's one of those things. It very much like, take the time to check in and take the time to treat yourself. You at the end of the day, you got you, like,
Hmm.
plain and simple. And when you love yourself and you're able to kind of take care of yourself, you reward yourself in so many ways. It's like
Hmm.
that relationship with yourself is so important. And it's definitely something that I think we neglect because we're busy taking care of the world.
Hmm.
And, we need to save that time for ourselves and be able to get a lot of those, whether it's negative feelings, good feelings, whatever it is, get them out. Because if you're not expressing it, you're containing it. And
Right.
that's not always a good thing.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that's helped me too, because I was your typical person who would exercise for therapy purposes, right? So
Mhm.
like, it's such a common phrase that I've argued about over the last couple of years, that people say like, oh, exercise is therapy, exercise is therapy. And in a way, I'm like, yes, like very therapeutic, right? Like it has
Like an
great,
outlet, definitely.
for sure, like an outlet. And you can, some people, varying, you're not on your phone the whole time, you're not doing all these other things. But like for some people, it's that hour where they like, maybe for you, like you find your breath, and you're focusing on yourself for the first time all day, and all these other things. And that way, I'm like, yeah, such a therapeutic outlet. But in another regard, I'm like, you don't learn like how to properly communicate. You don't learn how to, maybe voice, your feelings, or be vulnerable, or all these other things that I think are amazing benefits from actual, talking to a professional counselor, professional therapist. Like all these amazing benefits that come from that. And so where I was going with that is, I was that person who would find physical distractions, and it didn't really click for me until, I started going to therapy. And my therapist is a behavioral change therapist. And one of the first things she had me do was like take time each day to sit in silence or to meditate, and
Mhm.
journal. And that was such a revelation for me, because I don't know about you, but like when I was, high anxiety, like depression, um, as soon as I get into bed at night, my mind would be racing, 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 because it was the first time all day I like didn't have anything distracting me, right? And my mind was
Yeah,
left to just, wander. And that was the first time I realized like this is happening because I didn't take any time during the day, even like 1, 2 minutes, just to be still, and just let my mind, sort of like dump everything out that's on its mind, right?
definitely.
Yeah. So that was something that, as soon as you said that, like resonate with me, because I was like, yes, like sitting, like anything you could do to like really just focus on your breath, let your
Mhm.
mind sort of dump everything out that just kind of festers if you never address it or anything like that. That was a big thing for me to feel it and to heal it, in your words.
Yeah, it's so helpful to take that time. And, even though, we want to try and keep a blank mind, um, even after that, if you've given yourself the time, unfortunately, dumping it all out doesn't magically make everything go away.
Right.
But the magic of it is it gives your brain a chance to like stop. It gives you a chance to stop, that
Hmm.
when you come back, you're almost like refreshed.
Right.
And it's like, okay, now let me make a list of everything that's on my mind, because then you can start knocking things out. Such a great feeling when you're doing that. But
Hmm.
exactly, the finding your breath is a really big one. And I love that you brought that up, because that's something that we use all the time to, or kind of feeling one hand on the heart, one hand on the stomach, and really feeling what's kind of going on there. Though 5, 10, 15 minutes does wonders. It can do wonders just doing that check in with yourself.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful example.
I love that. I love that. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions I have for you, because I like I said, this is it's something that really blew my mind when I really got into like the coaching aspect, like the psychological
Mhm.
aspect of, creating change, like true change in someone's life. It's so uh it was so like amazing to me, because I was just like, this is, there's so many avenues that it goes down, right? Like there's trauma when you were a kid that leads to the reason you feel like you need the feel the need to finish your plate, right? Like your parent told you to, you're wasting food, you need to clean this up, blah blah. And it's just like really interesting to me that, it really, whether it's weight loss, wherever your goal is, those things really come out when you're trying to change your physical self, and how
Yeah,
those things can be your barriers, like things that happened years ago. Those things are your
and how
barriers of
they
why you,
follow you.
yeah, that blows my mind. It's like so interesting to me.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, I feel like ultimately we're a collage of our experiences, and those experiences molded us into why we behave a certain way, why we react to certain stimuli a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And, bringing awareness to that. And that's why I love the fact that you're so open about, going out to get therapy and starting this journey. I feel there's still that stigma there,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and it's something we need to remove. If you have a cold, you're gonna go see somebody, are you not?
Right.
Well, it has to be a pretty serious cold, but but you're gonna go see somebody.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Even so many of us in the field, we have our own therapist because can we do it alone? Perhaps. Do we have to? No, there's actually no need to go through it alone.
Right.
And having somebody as a sounding board or everything to just kind of be able to unpack, name those things, organize, process everything. It's so powerful. And in the
Mm-hmm.
long run, it's going to help your overall health, all
Mm-hmm.
levels of it. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and that was actually like that was one thing I was curious about too, because it must be so interesting to have like this fourth wall with yourself where you're like, I know exactly what's going on with me right now, but I'm still like the human inside like the machine that's like going through it. Is that like
Yeah.
something you personally have navigated like in terms of like, oh, like you like self-diagnose and you'd be like, I know what to do, but like it's still hard.
There have been times, and I'm sure a few of my colleagues would probably agree with me. There have been times where, yeah, there's certain things that I can deal with because I've learned and everything. But even though nobody is going to know you as well as you know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a second set of eyes from an outsider's view
Mm-hmm.
is going to uncover a whole new world for you that you're like, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I
Right.
didn't like, they bring even more awareness to the table. And it's like, oh my God, like and when you're able to work on that, you're
Yeah.
like, wow, there's this whole set of problems that I thought I was getting rid of with this.
Right.
And now I can implement things here as well. And it's just, I always say, no man is an island. Always have somebody in your corner,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's friends, family, professional help, a gym buddy, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. It's always good to have somebody in your corner.
Yeah.
We're
Absolutely.
social beings. We're meant to connect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like and first thing that popped in my mind because I hear it all the time is like people say coaches need coaches, even therapists need therapists. Like there's no reason uh anybody should go through it alone, whatever they might be going through. And also the fact that, like you said, it's important to have another set of eyes on you to create more awareness, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's different if I'm watching you do the leg press, you think you're doing one thing, I see something else. I'm like, hey, switch your foot position to this, and you're like, holy shit, like that that made all the difference. Same thing with
I
mental
should have
health.
done that.
Right. Right.
And it's
uh
so helpful,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially
And
in a gym setting.
yep, absolutely. And the other thing too, just to go backwards a little bit, you'd mentioned like the
Hmm.
the stigma with therapy. That was I remember that was one of the hardest things. um I think when I first announced I was going to therapy on like social media, because there it was and is such a stigma with therapy, because I remember I felt so much anxiety being like, yeah, I go to therapy, but it's because everybody says, oh, you should only go to therapy if you're crazy, or if anything like that, and it's just like, no, like I still go to therapy to it's similar why I get my checkup every year or anything like that, because you need to check in on your physical health and you need to check in on your mental health, especially everything we said. Like it's one, like you said, it's one big collage. Like you
Yeah.
can't have one without the other.
And honestly, even with where the world is at today, everything that's
Hmm.
going on, without it's a matter of turning on the news for 5 minutes.
Hmm.
We don't even need to go into detail. There's so
Right.
much that it's like you could be as far removed from all this. You're still going to hear enough where it's like, it's okay to talk to somebody to process
Right.
those feelings. It's a lot to carry, everything from the wars and the injustices that we're seeing from day to day.
Hmm.
It's a lot to see. There's
Hmm.
no nobody's immune to this.
Right.
And it's one of those things. No shame in talking to somebody
Right.
ever.
Right.
I
Yeah.
actually think there's a beauty in it because of the healing that happens when we're
Yeah.
able to express that. If not,
Absolutely.
I always say feelings. always find a way to, whether it's good or bad. You love somebody and you have a hard time, something about you is going to give that away.
Mm-hmm.
You're really angry at someone, something in your demeanor towards that person is going to give it away. Feelings find a way to crawl out of you one way or
Mm,
another. And
yeah.
so, whether you're speaking it or whether it's coming out in a way that you did not want it to come out,
Yeah.
they're going to come.
I love that. That's so freaking true. Whether it's like your body language or whether it's like your partner didn't, you know, leave the door unlocked for you or something like that. When you got like little things like you might pick up and be like, I think you're angry. I mean, or
Yeah,
we need to talk, right? It's so true. Feelings always do come out, and whether it's whether it's your fitness or anything else like that. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for hopping on this
likewise.
podcast. I'd love to have
No
you on
problem. Thank
again.
you for having me.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'd love to have you on again because for me, psychology and mental health, like I said, go hand in hand with health and wellness. And I think it'd be really important for us down the line to talk more about it. And I'm sure this will be popular with a lot of people who listen to this. I have one more question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
That's a curveball out of nowhere. But I didn't even tell you the
I'm
name of this
ready.
podcast is called These Little Moments Podcast. And it's essentially
Mhm.
the reason I named it this was because I was at this seminar in the summer one year, and that was like the summer or the spring I started going to therapy, started addressing my mental health, my anxiety, depression, all that. And it was the first time in like a public setting I had announced that I was somebody who struggled with anxiety, depression, because everybody sees somebody who's physically in good shape and they just assume you're mentally in good shape as well, and just not the case.
Mhm.
So it was one of those things where I was just telling people at the seminar, I just said, hey, listen, like, I don't get as much as I get from fitness anymore because it's just like so ingrained in me, right? It's just like if you after that 10th cup of coffee, you're so used to it, it doesn't give you that stimulus anymore. So I was like, I get a real thrill from life now from little moments and interactions with people from their most vulnerable moments or moments that really make the biggest impact and change on you. So that long story out of the way, my question for you is what is a little moment or possibly a big moment in your life that sort of has led you to where you are today?
Little moment or big moment that led me to where I am today. Oh, that's hard. Hmm. I don't know. There's so much. I mean, again, I fell into this by accident and everything. Um, but I do love it. I think it's a lot of little moments that I've had over the years where I've been able to help people help with their families. There have been clients, I would say, that have been in a very dark place, and being able to have the honor, the privilege, to hold the hope for them until they were able to come out of it on the other end
Mm,
is probably one of the most incredible experiences that I ever been able to have. Something very euphoric, cathartic about it. And I think that's kind of what keeps me in this. And then I would
mhm,
say on a more global, I like not global, but like on a much grander scheme of things, we see that there's been a big shift in mental health to help the youth. I feel like I've seen a lot of adults that are struggling because they were always ignored. We can go on for hours what we kind of see out there today. And if I can kind of help the kiddos to this day and make it the world a less scary and better place for them, then I'm doing my job. And I think
wow.
those are the little moments that I'm like, yeah, it's worth it.
I love that, man. I love, and I never thought of it from a therapist perspective. That's exactly what a therapist does. Is you hold the hope for that person that they can create that change, right? And that they
Yes.
eventually will, no matter how long it takes. I love that, dude. That's a great like. You just reframe therapy for me from a therapist perspective. That was really cool. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you. And do you want people to find you on social media before, I want to make sure you're comfortable.
Maybe we'll come back to that. I don't really
Sure.
have
No,
anything therapeutic on that. I've been thinking
true.
about making a professional page.
Okay.
In addition, when we get there,
Yeah. When you
I
get
will
there, I'll have you
definitely
back
let you
on.
know.
I'll have you back
And we'll
on with
announce it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When you get there, when you create your own thing like that, I'll have you back on. So that we can really, get that ball rolling. But I appreciate you,
It's
man.
gonna
Like
be
I
great.
said,
Likewise.
like, I appreciate you, our relationship, and I just thought it was really cool. I was like, this person is a master in his field, and I was like, even better that I knew
Oh,
him growing
too
up
kind.
lifeguarding. so so yeah, man, I appreciate you. We'll stay on just a little bit to talk after, but thank you, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate
No
you.
problem.
All right, we'll see
No
you guys in the
problem.
next one. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank